In this video, we are going to learn about polar vortex, how it is formed and when it is dangerous. When you look at this term polar vortex, let's break the words and try to understand each one of them. Vortex means something which moves in a circular motion. For example, when you try to spin the water in a bucket, it moves in a circular motion. This kind of movement is also true with air and wind. It is this circular movement which is known as a vortex. The other word is polar, which I believe you know the meaning. It means anything related to North and South Pole. So what we understand from the term polar vortex is that there is a circular movement of air or wind occurring on both the Earth's poles, that is North Pole and the South Pole. It always exists near the poles. When you hear the term polar vortex, it sounds singular, right? Actually, there are two polar vortices on Earth. One is in the southern hemisphere over Antarctica, and one is in the northern hemisphere over the Arctic region. The northern hemisphere polar vortex is the stronger one, because the winds in the southern hemisphere are less effective due to the fact that the southern hemisphere has less land than the northern hemisphere. This kind of unevenness of land surface causes changes in temperature and pressure that further has tremendous effect on regional air and winds. When we head towards the polar region, for example, let's go to the North Pole. Here you will find a polar vortex in the upper level of the atmosphere. In other words, you will find this circular movement of wind in the upper level of the troposphere. If you can remember, there are four layers of the atmosphere: troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere and thermosphere. A polar vortex starts in the upper troposphere and extends into the stratosphere and sometimes continues up to the mesosphere. If you notice, the ozone layer exists in the beginning of the stratosphere. Anyhow, what you need to remember is that a polar vortex occurs in the upper level of the polar region's atmosphere. That is, it starts at the tropopause and extends up to the stratosphere. The next thing you need to know is that a polar vortex is an area of low pressure. Now you may have a question, how come there is a low pressure in polar region? We have always read that a low pressure is an area of less dense air with warmer air temperatures. Then how come there is low pressure in polar region? After all, everything in the polar region is cold, right? To understand this, I want you to look at the atmospheric pressure belts of the Earth. In this diagram, we will only look at the northern hemisphere side. The same is true for the southern hemisphere side as well. Anyhow, on the x-axis, we have different latitudes going from the equator to the North Pole. On the y-axis, we have the altitude. I'll keep the height till 55 kilometers because that's where the stratosphere ends. The troposphere ends at about 10 to 15 km and thereafter the stratosphere begins. This is a line that denotes the end of troposphere, which is also called the tropopause. This will come handy as we go further in the explanation. Alright, let's begin. We know that as we go away from the equator towards the polar region, temperature drops. It gets cold, especially when the northern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun. Latitudes between the equator and the North Pole will experience winter, and southern hemisphere will witness summer. Generally, in between 25 and 35 degrees north and south latitude, you will find the subtropical region, which is a high pressure belt. Subtropical region is a transition zone from tropical region to temperate region. And then in between 50 degree and 70 degree north and south latitude, you will find the subpolar region, which is a low pressure belt. Subpolar region is a transition zone from the temperate to polar region. Let's begin from the equatorial region. Equatorial region is a low pressure region because here you will find more direct rays of sunlight and more hours of daylight, which is enough for this region to receive more solar radiation. As a result, it also makes the surrounding air warmer in this region. The warm air at the equatorial region rises up to the end of troposphere and moves towards the poles. You also have to understand that temperature decreases as we go higher and higher in the troposphere. At the tropopause, the temperature is extremely cold. I want you to pay attention to this point. The tropopause lies somewhere around 12 to 15 kilometers above equatorial region and about 7 to 9 kilometers over the polar region. Now you may ask, why is that at the polar region, the height of tropopause is lower compared to equatorial region? And the reason behind that is because the equator is warmer. We know that equatorial region is warmer because the sun's rays hits the Earth's surface at a higher angle at the equator. The surface air at the equatorial region expands as it warms and then rises. This process is called convection. The rate of convection is higher at the equatorial region. It is because of this, the height of the troposphere is higher over the equator, and as we move towards the poles, the height reduces almost by half. At the poles, the air is cool and dense. As a result, the height of the troposphere is low. And by the way, the temperature of the tropopause also varies from equator to polar region. For example, the average temperature of the equatorial tropopause is somewhere around -65.5 degrees Celsius. And the same temperature of the Arctic tropopause is somewhere around -33.25 degrees Celsius. That means the temperature of equator's tropopause is much lower than the Arctic region's tropopause. And the reason behind this temperature difference is a topic for another video. For now, all you have to understand is that the equator's tropopause is much lower than the Arctic region's tropopause. Anyhow, the warm air at the equatorial region rises up and moves towards the poles. On its way, it comes down or sinks at the subtropical region, because just now we learned that the air at upper troposphere is cool. Plus, there is a wave of cold air that is coming from the Arctic, which collides with the equatorial region's warm air, and that creates a buildup of cool air at about 30 degrees north and south latitude. As a result, due to the cooling of the air mass, which makes them heavy, some of the air sinks at the subtropical region, forming a high pressure belt. The sinking air reaches the surface and flows north and south. The air that flows south is called the easterlies or the trade winds. They are surface winds. As they flow towards south, it completes one cell of the Earth's circulation pattern. This pattern of atmospheric circulation from the equator to the subtropical region is called Hadley cell. It is named after George Hadley, who was a famous meteorologist, as he proposed this mechanism. The air that flows north is called the westerlies, and it collides with the winds coming from Arctic region at 60 degree north latitude. The winds collide nearer to the surface. When they collide and converge nearer to the surface, they don't have any place to sink, so they rise. And when air rises, it is associated with clouds and precipitation. You see, it's creating a similar condition that exists in the skies of equatorial region. That's how it creates a low pressure zone at 60 degree north latitude. And this region is named as subpolar low. The rising air splits into two. The air that flows south sinks at the subtropical region. This pattern of atmospheric circulation from the subtropical region to the subpolar region is called Ferrel cell. And finally, one branch of the rising air at 60 degree north latitude flows towards the North Pole and sinks. The sinking air at the North Pole creates a high pressure belt. When the air sinks at North Pole, it flows south. It is called the polar easterlies. It collides with the air moving north from the 30 degree high pressure area at 60 degree subpolar region. This creates the third circulation pattern between the North Pole and 60 degree north. This third pattern of atmospheric circulation from subpolar region to North Pole is called polar cell. That means at the North Pole air sinks, and that creates a high pressure belt. But then a polar vortex is a low pressure wind circulation. This sounds contradicting, right? On one hand, North Pole is a high pressure region, and on the other hand, polar vortex is a low pressure phenomenon. Let's understand the logic behind this contradiction. You will find this polar vortex in the upper level of the atmosphere, that is at the tropopause. And all this sinking and rising of air we saw is within the troposphere. The tropopause is the boundary in the Earth's atmosphere, where the troposphere ends and the stratosphere begins. And we have already learned that it is somewhere around 12 to 15 kilometers above equatorial region and about 7 to 9 kilometers over the Arctic region. So when we say the North Pole is a high pressure region, the high pressure is on the ground or at the surface region. But when you look at 60° north latitude, which is also called the subpolar low, this area is also called the polar front, meaning it is the boundary between the polar cell and the Weddell cell, where cold polar air mass meets the warm tropical air mass. Here the air rises. One branch of the rising air flows towards the North Pole and sinks. It is this rising air which is warm enough to rise, goes up to the tropopause, and we know that the tropopause is about 7 to 9 kilometers over the Arctic region. That's how the air at the Arctic tropopause creates a low pressure with cold air in it. And this is what is called the polar vortex. It rotates counterclockwise because you need to look at the Earth from top view. The vortex moves in circular motion from west to east. In the Antarctic region, this is opposite. Now there are two jet streams. One sits at the subtropical region and the other sits at the subpolar region. The subpolar jet stream keeps this polar vortex bottled up. Think of the subpolar jet stream as a gate that holds this cold air to the north. If this gate weakens, the cold air can escape into the lower latitude regions. The jet stream is strongest during the winter, when the temperature difference is greatest. During the summer, when the temperature difference between the air masses is smaller, the winds of the jet stream are weaker. Similarly, the polar vortex is stronger in the winter and weakens in the summer. And always remember this point. A weak polar vortex is the most dangerous. Why? Because the polar vortex is weak during summer. During summer, even the jet streams are weak. We have just read that the polar jet stream acts like a gate. If the gate is weak, the polar vortex expands or splits and can shift further south in the regions of Canada, the northeastern side of United States, Europe and Russia. So always remember, in winter the polar vortex as well as the polar jet streams are strong, but it is not dangerous when it is strong. It is dangerous when it is weak. So the polar vortex as well as the polar jet streams are weak during spring and summertime, which is from the months of March to June.